So we have Julián Ruiz Villanueva of Esencia Rural. This is his Pampaneo 2018 Airen Natural. All right. Not sure if you know, but Julián is in La Mancha, which is the biggest wine producing region in the world, and actually the Airen grape is the widest grown grape in the world, maybe for the wrong reasons. Most of it is used for distilling. A lot of it is sold bulk to other countries and marketed as Chardonnay, for example. But in this case, Julián and his family have been in the region for generations, making cheese, farming the land, and making wine. He is the godfather of orange wine in Spain, or at least Spanish orange wine. Super extended skin macerations. This Pampaneo is, I think, about 100 days, so let's say 3 months on the skins, bottled unfiltered, unfined, no sulfur, and obviously farmed organically, and most of the Airen that he's working with is coming from ungrafted pre-phylloxera vines.
What's the temperature like when this is sitting in, this is in amphoras that are just buried in the ground outside with rocks over them?
Yes. What's
the temperature like?
So this is a very hot region. It's a very continental climate, but obviously being buried in the ground, the temperature is a little more stable. You know, if you sort of dig through the topsoil and dig deep, it does get relatively cool.
Okay.
In the ground, so you could call it old school temperature control.
Okay.
All right.
I mean, it makes, you were saying, he thinks of himself as managing livestock and how he manages all the microorganisms in the wine and stuff. So I mean, it must be the right temperature for all of the bacteria doing their thing.
He considers all of the bacteria, all of the microbes that form a part of his wine, that form a part of the winemaking. He considers them his livestock. And in addition to being a winemaker, he is in the business of managing that livestock and understanding when each and every different species manifests, So he's been doing this for a while. He's very critical about how orange wine is made.
Yeah. And what other people call orange wine.
Other people call orange wine. He's pretty radical. He's pretty hardcore. And I think his wines definitely show that. Definitely show his sort of radical take on what orange wine should be. I think they can be polarizing, but for the most part, scream orange wine, and I think. He's bringing or pumping a lot of oxygen into a really conventional winemaking region that is La Mancha. I think he's created a movement in the region, and now there's a lot of proteges or disciples that are starting to make wine in the way that he makes it. He also thinks, and not he thinks, he knows, and we know from tasting it, that Airen is a neutral grape. It lacks acidity. So he thinks that, letting the wine aerate, letting the wine macerate on the skins, and maybe promoting, an elegant, integrated, volatile acidity can really help the wine, give it freshness, give it precision, and give it focus.
Yeah. These taste beautiful and brilliant and complex. They don't taste flawed or weird to me. They just, they're unique, but they're really good.
And it hasn't always been like that. I think a lot of that has to do with his understanding of the microbial activity in his wine, of the conditions. All this being said, So the Sol Sol is the one that's buried in the amphora, which I'm going to pour for you now. It's Sol Sol Tinaja Airen 2016. So this is the one that's actually buried in the amphora.
Okay.
All right. The Pampaneo ferments and ages in stainless steel without temperature control.
Okay.
All right. But again, he doesn't need the temperature control. He wants to spike the volatile acidity in his wines a little bit. And regardless of having volatile acidity, you won't notice it in the wine. It's been completely integrated and sort of absorbed by everything else that's happening in the wine.
Yep.
All right. That's the orange that we were tasting. That's a Sol Sol. As you can see, real orange wine. About half a year on the skins. 6 months without, filtering, fining, adding sulfur, temperature control.
Nothing.
OG natural wine guy.
OG natural wine buried in the ground. It's so rich and tropical.
Which is what
So,
Airen
like,
gives you. And which
big
is
and
why it's been written
dense.
off.
Yep.
The tropical vibe, the tropical note that you get from Airen, in most cases using cultured yeast is why it's been written off as one of the insignificant regions of Spain, more known for volume than quality. But the fact that he's farming really old vines, in some cases ungrafted vines, and the fact that he's doing it organically, I think really sets him apart from what's happening in his region. It's almost like a needle in a haystack. He's a relatively big farmer for our standards, for our portfolio. He's farming about 30 hectares. But I'd say for La Mancha standards, he's
tiny.
He's tiny. Probably as small as it gets.
Yeah.
So really unique, really, really excited to have him. And, I think these wines are definitely going to, give us lots to talk about.
Yeah.
For sure, because they're so different from anything we had ever tasted in the region. And I'd say different from any of the orange wine I had ever tasted in Spain. So we're almost, channeling like Georgian winemaking styles.
Yeah, I don't know, you say that these are polarizing or might be polarizing or something, but I think that most things that are really important and special and exciting and intense, they sort of by definition are polarizing.
Exactly. And again, not everyone has to like them. Things don't have to be commercial to be good. I'd say these wines are not maybe so commercial, but they're real and they're honest and they're made with a lot of passion and a lot of sort of know-how behind them. A lot of experimenting.
We'll find out whether or not it's commercial. We'll see how well they sell.
Sometimes the market grows around you. So something, it could take 15, 20 years, but it happens with musicians, Sometimes musicians have to die for people to really understand what they're doing. And it's true.
This to me, this tastes, this is layered and rich and lush, and it has a little bit of aromatic spice and things like that to it.
There's lots going on, for sure.
This is balanced and to me well put together. There's volatile acidity, but the volatile acidity is integrated and balances the really lush, viscous sort of quality that the wine has.
It keeps all of that driven. And focused and direct.
Yeah, from a technical tasting wine standpoint, it's balanced and interesting and complex and well put together.
I completely agree, and this is why I think these wines are so different from a lot of the orange wine being made, which he considers water.
Yep.
These are a little bit more complex, have a little bit more depth to them, layers, and all types of aromas, and ever evolving and just really, really exciting wines, and maybe drinkability is not what he's known for, but I mean they're definitely.
But I think he should be, because I think they're very drinkable.
Yeah, but I mean, we're talking 13.5 alcohol, and we're talking on this one, all right, 12.5 alcohol. But you know, sometimes in natural wine we talk about drinkability and we talk about a wine being water, vegetable water, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's so much the case. I think there's so much more into these wines.
Yes.
You know, secondary and tertiary aromas.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
depth, and obviously, you know, we know that ungrafted vines are really reaching down deep for nourishment and really, you know, I think these wines really reflect all of those layers that these vines are sort of